In life, we are sometimes pushed by events that require our determination and courage. The protagonist of our story found himself in a situation where his world fell apart under the weight of betrayal. He had long suspected that his wife was cheating on him, but could not find reliable proof. But one day, gathering all his strength, he found something that changed everything. He figured out his wife's lover, learned his name, address, and everything about him. At that moment, unbridled rage and a thirst for revenge awoke in him. He decided to take the situation into his own hands and go to him. What awaited him in this dangerous and unpredictable meeting? What twist of fate had prepared for them by changing fate? Will he be able to find the truth and find his peace of mind? In our fascinating story, we will penetrate the world of amazing stories of treason, where passion, betrayal, and revenge are intertwined in a single web of drama. Will we witness liberation or plunge into darkness? What mysteries will unfold before us in this story? Get ready to plunge into a thrilling story where every step will be filled with tension and unexpected twists and turns. Welcome to the world of amazing cheating stories, where fate plays its dangerous game, and the main character is looking for his place in this paradoxical labyrinth. And so we begin. Hi all. Of course, it would be worth sharing some background information first, as everyone else does, like me. My wife and I have known each other for 13 years. 12 of those years we are legally married. We have a wonderful daughter, a 5-year-old. Anyway, it went like this. My wife was brought up, as they say, in a kid glove. Strict mother and everything. We got married early. She was 19 and I was 21, respectively, the first day we met. I saw my woman forever, as they say, love at first sight. Well, what can I say? She and I lived, fought for our happiness together. Frankly, the relationship with her mommy was not very, but I still tried not to hurt one and thus to not hurt the other. My spouse, she is a very reserved person. There are few friends. Yes, you could say no friends at all. All these years, if something was bothering her, I had to get it out of her. Our first incident. I found out then that she was being molested by a grown man who was old enough to be her father. She didn't tell me anything, of course. One evening, I just so trivially saw a text message from her. She came over, and I said, "Who? What?" She was being silly. I was like, I don't know, wrong number, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, look, I'm not stupid either. I looked at the incoming and outgoing. Well, okay, had a fight, made up, and so on. But in his head, it's all postponed. Some time passed, and after 4 years of our marriage, I admit I cheated on my wife. I thought I wanted another relationship, but no. I came forward and confessed everything to her, as I simply could not live a lie. I told her right away that I was a jerk and I was ready to leave. She forgave me, listened to me, listened as well why I did it, and I'll tell you, our life bubbled up with all the different colors. 3 years later, we had a wonderful baby. Well, everything is as it should be. Dad works and Mom is home with the baby. Let me tell you right away, there are a lot of feelings in our family, a lot of family values and other nice things. She went to work after her maternity leave. Everyone, of course, was surprised at what she had become. They were two different people, before and after. And a year later, my wife, who had always been faithful to the family, cheated on me with a colleague at work. The affair spiraled with platitudes, communication, attention, and other nonsense. With all that said, the communication only happened in the morning before work. The rest of the time she was with the family and got dizzy, bed, love, and stuff. And again only in the morning before work. I, for my part, didn't suspect anything for a year. And at one point I felt something like this. I think men will understand me, and opened everything up on the first day. At first the usual simple call detail. There were daily conversations waiting for me in the morning, afternoon, and evening, exactly when I'm not around. Anyway, my wife and I sit down and I say, "What is this?" Well, I show her the printout and she answers me, "It's just a friend, and tell me, what can you talk about so much with a friend? Just a friend." I suggested a meeting, let a friend come to visit. We'll be friends together. In short, began to press his wife. Well, I know her. I said that I have a record of phone calls, as well as her text messages. Then she confessed, or rather began to make up stories, such as, "I got back at you, and it was only 2 times, and that's all. Nothing between them," but they continued to communicate. Of course, I was furious. I met with her friend, who also repented and said, "I'm sorry. I'm a fool who insisted," and blah blah blah, all in the same vein. I come home in the evening, and she's like, "I'm sorry, I only love you. Let's keep the family together. I won't do it anymore," and all that stuff. I forgive my wife, she's such a fucking bitch. The next day, he text messages, calls again, and another scandal, but not on this topic, that she writes him, "She that I feel, how the fuck," again I forgive, and again the same bullshit. Then I packed my suitcase and left, and my soul hurts, because I really love her. She sends me a text message and says, "I'm sorry, but really, I love someone else and want to be with him." They made a decision in the morning. I called this Dick, and he says we love each other and decided to be together. I'll be there soon. So I sit and wait for him. He didn't come. He wrote her a new sums. Pay attention, right? The sum says, "My wife understood everything. I stay in the family." Well, you understand, like to go to hell. At night, she starts texting me and calling me and all that crap. Well, we met the next day and she says, "So and so, I'm sorry, I repent, I understand everything." I took her to my parents. There I told them everything. They got mad, to put it mildly, and said that everything is on my side. She is a fool and blah blah. I leave her there to think, take her phone, see what else was. Remember, I wrote about family values, so she asked me for her birthday to give her a song recording in the studio. He did it for her, and she sang a song about her feelings for him. And she still can't admit it. She says she thought it was love. Yes, we shared a relationship for a year. What to do next? His mother did not offer his mind. The child feels everything. I love her. But I do not trust to leave or try again. I do not know. Advise something, please. I will be grateful to you. Dear listeners, in turn, I am already grateful to you for watching this video, as well as the fact that you subscribe to the channel, put likes, dislikes, write comments. It shows that the content that I make for you in these stories, they are interesting to you, and it makes sense to continue. Now on to the second story. There are times in all of our lives when our decisions and actions call into question the very existence of our relationships. The main character in our story found himself facing such a challenge when his life changed dramatically. He was living in a beautiful fairy tale, in a happy marriage, but one day his world crumbled when he discovered his wife cheating on him. Pain and resentment pierced his heart, and a fire of determination flared up inside him. He decided not to wise up, not to endure humiliation and betrayal. He took the bold decision to get a divorce. He no longer wanted to be with his horns, to stand in the shadow of lies and deceit. He decided to choose freedom and seek a new path where betrayal would have no place. What awaits him on this new journey? How will he deal with the pain and disappointment? Will he be able to find himself and find happiness again? In our gripping story, we will delve into a world of amazing stories of drama, where divorce becomes a path to a new life. Will we witness healing of the soul or a plunge into more anxiety? What adventures and challenges await our hero? Get ready to dive into a story where every step will be imbued with meaning and self-determination. Welcome to a world of amazing stories where fate stacks the cards and the main character is looking for his place in this complex puzzle of life. Personal space and how to deal with it. As much as I searched for an explanation about it, I never found one. But in my personal life, I acquired these same explanations. We only lived together for 3 years, and that was only because I had patience and put up with all of my wife's shenanigans. At first it was difficult. I worked things out with my wife every time she screamed for her personal space. Honestly, it pissed me off, because before the wedding she had no personal space at all, but as soon as she married me, it came right out of nowhere. Mostly, my wife's personal space extended to her phone, laptop. Then her space began to swell and expand, and even her personal intimate life got into it. Yes, you read that right, even sex. Which she didn't want to. She would simply say that she wanted to be alone, and that even light touch would disturb the harmony of her personal space for a given amount of time. To violate her personal space at that moment was the equivalent of a cataclysm, a natural disaster, or the outbreak of hostilities without a declaration of war. My wife was never offended in such cases, but simply became angry and started scandalizing. By the end of the 3rd year of our life together, I was fed up with it all, and began to take all my wife's antics with a degree of irony. Stopped getting angry, began to give more time to myself, took up sports. I loved my wife, tried many times to tell her that her personal space has already exceeded all limits, and it can end badly. My wife, on the other hand, always reacted painfully, trying every time to explain to me that personal space is simply vital for everyone. The sliced question, why? She never had a clear and precise answer. No, my wife wasn't completely bad. She wasn't a great cook, but it was possible to eat, though the food was not varied. In fact, I could cook almost nothing myself, but I always helped my wife in the kitchen. So when the dish was not quite edible, we had no complaints against each other. So, by the end of the 3rd year of my life, I was tired of living only in my wife's space. I wanted us to have everything in common, from finances to children. Apparently, my wife had a different opinion of her personal space. Once we were invited to a birthday party. It was fun. A cozy cafe, really broke the law, were without masks, but none got sick. Music, light effects. And then I noticed my wife looking over at some man, occasionally smiling at him. Of course, I wanted to ask her if she knew the man. Naturally, instead of answering, I ran into the edge of her personal space. As the alcohol loosened up the crowd and the stations began, the man invited my wife over. Even though they were trying to get lost among the dancers, I could still see everything. I saw my wife listening to the man with interest, smiling at him. On the 3rd dance, I tried to take her away, break up their couple, and dance with my wife myself. What? That's right. My wife hissed at me like a snake and refused to dance with me. When I asked why not, she said that I was her husband and she was still dancing with me. Then it became interesting. The man had already grown impudent and frankly groped my wife. She did not make any attempt to the page. Finally, the festivities were over and we went home. In the evening, already in bed, I wanted intimacy. Apparently, my wife was not fervent, and I again violated the boundaries of her space. This really hit me hard. So, a strange man can enter her personal space. You can have a conversation with him. You can cuddle on the brink of foul, but my husband cannot. To what she ultimatumically said that she knew the boundaries of the permitted, that nothing of the kind with that man did not and will not, and with me there is nothing to talk about. What about before the wedding? After all, we'd have found a bunch of topics that we were both interested in and discussed them, and now there was nothing to talk about. I'd no longer figured out the relationship, no scandals, no trying to convince or anything like that. I knew it was time to call it a day. The next morning at breakfast, I asked my wife what she values more, our family or her personal space. To which I got the answer, of course, family, and just silly to compare family and personal characteristics. But that's where it all started. One day, my wife called and asked me to pick her up from the hum, to which I assumed to look for a driver in her personal space. There was a scandal on arrival, then there was another, but this time my wife asked for some money. Of course, I offered to take it in her personal space, And then an even more interesting thing happened in connection with the royal virus. The office where my wife worked closed, and my wife was out of work. Do you know how it all ended? One day she called from home and asked me to stop by on my way home and get some groceries. Of course, I said, who and where would buy her groceries? The answer I got was, screw you. The apartment was her brother's. He lives and works in Germany, and I went back to my communal apartment. I did not answer my wife's calls. If someone else's number rang, when I heard her voice, I dumped the call and put the phone number in the blacklist. Started coming home and to work. If at work, I was able to disconnect by alerting security to keep her out. At home, I had to change the lock on the room. At times, listening to the long pounding on the door and yelling, "Open up, we need to talk." And when I used to offer her, it wasn't necessary. But that soon ended. The neighbors were fed up with such visits, and they threatened to call the police on my wife, not to write a report on hooliganism. My mother-in-law came and asked me why I was doing this. Couldn't we sit down at the negotiating table, resolve the issue, and keep the family together? It was like I wasn't trying to talk. My wife always closed the door of her space, shutting me out of the conversation, and if I was persistent, she scandalized me. I filed for divorce, awaiting trial, and this is what I concluded about personal space. It was invented by women because I have never heard of personal space in men, and it's a space that women use exclusively for their own benefit. How many times I have not looked for an explanation about it, I have not found it. But in my personal life, I have acquired these explanations. Dear listeners, let's speculate in the comments on the topic of men's personal space. For example, I am sure that everyone has it, both men and women. And the fact that there was no love, respect, and interest for his partner in the main character's family. It was certainly not the fault of personal space. If you liked this video, put a like and subscribe to the channel. See you soon.